How's it going, everybody? Sean here with Chaotic Meatball TCG, and welcome back to another 50-game challenge video. If you remember, I posted one of these on my main channel, and it did absolutely terribly. If you would like to check it out, link will be in the description, but I figured why not use the TCG channel for TCG stuff. So today, we are going ahead and challenging the Synchro Festival with Synchron. As part of the Synchro Festival, we had some new cards released in Master Duel, including the Dawn of Majesty support for Stardust. Now, Stardust Synchron is a wonderful card that is an enabler for a lot of the stuff that we can do in this deck, but there are also a ton of tools that are also legal, like Jet Synchron, that aren't legal in the TCG, as well as Max C, a level 2 that you can bring back off of Junk Synchron that makes this deck tick really hard. In addition, since we can't play any other extra deck mechanics but Synchro, we're not really losing anything because of the way this deck plays, except for maybe a Crystron, Halki, Fibrax, Selene access code line if you're feeling fancy with Effect Veiler, but that really doesn't come up much. But before we begin, make sure to like the video, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll go ahead and explain the rules of this challenge. I have to get a 70% win rate in order to pass this event. Basically 35 wins out of 50. Simple, right? Well, a 70% win rate is considered pretty high, so we might be in for a little bit of trouble. But we'll see. Going over the deck first, we have 9 hand traps, 3 Effect Veiler, 3 Maxi, and 3 Infinite Impermanence. Now, Maxi is a level 2 that we can pitch for its own effect and then bring back with Junk Synchron like we said, but Infinite Impermanence and Effect Veiler are non-once per turn hand traps, and because you draw so many cards thanks to TG Hyper Librarian being on the field throughout most of your combo, you're likely going to want to go ahead and draw into hand traps that you can use multiple times. That's why we're only playing 2 Forbidden Droplet. In addition to Droplet, we're playing 2 Called by the Grave for defensive options. Of course, we want to be able to blank out Max Cs from our opponent, as well as Ash Blossoms, any errant hand traps that might be blocking us from performing our plays. We got 2 of them. Unfortunately, it's only at 1 in the TCG, otherwise it would be at a 40-card list, but I digress. The rest of this deck is all gas, as we're on 3 Junk Synchron, 3 Stardust Synchron, 1 Jet Synchron, and 1 Fire and a Skater as our tuners, and 3 Doppel Warrior, 3 Caligo Claw Crow, and 3 Skater Dawnwalker, as well as 1 Stardust Trail as our non-tuners. The Skater engine is pretty great as both a discard outlet and a free level 8 synchro like Chaos Ruler, that I had to include it over something like Junk Converter, but everything else is pretty standard for the deck. As for spells, we're on 3 Tuning, 3 Synchro Overtake, 1 Monster Reborn, 1 Foolish Burial, 1 Reinforcement of the Army, and 1 Stardust Illumination to search off of our Stardust effect. This lets us send the Stardust Trail to the graveyard, and then when we tribute a monster for Stardust Synchron's other effect, we can also bring this back, giving us yet another free level 8 Synchro, or perhaps even level 9 thanks to the modulation effect of Stardust Illumination in the graveyard. They can also just be used for other Synchros with other tuners. It's really weird, this deck doesn't have coherent combo lines, rather it has a ton of benchmarks you should be hitting. Things like Junk Speeder, Chaos Ruler, making TG Hyper Librarian early on, and some form of negation to hedge against hand traps like Nibiru, such as Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon. But the end board is very flexible. Do you want a quick synchro with XL Synchron to make Satellite Warrior during your opponent's turn to pop multiple cards? Or would you like to go all in on negation and end on Barone, Herald of the Arclight, Crystal Wing, and Hot Red Dragon Archfiend? It's a pretty simple thing to think about, but it's very complicated in the games when you're trying to execute. Heck, there's even more you can do with XL Synchron, since you can send with its effect either Junk Synchron or Stardust Synchron, because it can increase or decrease its level based on the level it sends. You can quick synchro into something crazy like a level 9 QB Shen in order to force your opponents to banish things on their field to go ahead and do their own synchro summons, which means things like Doppel Warrior won't trigger. This is a great thing in the mirror and is actually pretty busted in most of the matchups that we're going to be seeing. Overall, you have a ton of options to consider while in any given matchup, and I find the options to be very fun to choose from, in a best of 3 format. Given that we're in a best of 1 format, it's pretty safe to just end on the negation boards and hope for the best. Though ending on the Excel Synchron and going into Satellite Warrior or Shen Shen can sometimes win you the game, you're luckily probably going to draw into Effect Veiler, Infinite Impermanence, Forbidden Droplet, and ending on 3 or 4 of your own negation synchro monsters, that you'll be just fine. As for the rest of the extra deck, I've already said a lot of these, but for the cards I haven't mentioned, we've got Celestial Double Star Shaman, a level 2 that can bring back level 2 non-tuner monsters from the graveyard, so you can sync off something like Jet Synchron and a Doppel token to make this. Martial Metal Marcher is a level 3 that brings back a tuner from the graveyard. Again, something you can make off of Jet Synchron and Doppel Warrior. Junk Warriors here mainly for Synchro Overtake purposes to search for Junk Synchron. Stardust Charge Warrior for drawing more cards, and Psy Frame Lord Omega. These are all fantastic cards as well, and Omega is a great choice for the Escator engine when you discard Doppel Warrior specifically and have access to Junk Synchron. Doppel Warrior alone, when syncing off with Junk Synchron to make Junk Speeder, occupies the extra monster zone as well as all 5 main monster zones, and being able to just use the Escator to go into Omega, banish a card out of your opponent's hand, and clear your zones to do all of those fancy plays means that we're just making bosses and going crazy, making sure that they have access to little to no outs to our board. But enough talk, I've explained the basics of the deck. Let's get into some action and see how much of a punch Synchron can give. So even though we did 50 games, I'm only going to be showing a dozen of them since a lot usually end up being surrenders from players who know they can't play through my board, disconnections due to faulty internet, misplays that lead into shame concessions, stuff like that. But I've managed to dig up a dozen games from my 50 game record that are worth showing to give you a sense of how the deck plays, teach you interactions, and give myself a challenge all at once. So stick around to the end of the video to find out my win rate, but let's get into it. Our first game here was actually the 21st game in the 50 game challenge, but since it's the best one that I found in showing a good turn 1 setup, I figured I'd put it here. I start out with a Rhoda to search out Junk Synchron, then use Tuning to search Stardust Synchron, milling a Doppel Warrior, so I am making the best board possible, instead of using my Caligo here. Normal summoning Junk Synchron and bringing back Doppel Warrior lets me make Junk Speeder, special summoning 2 level 1 Doppel tokens and 3 Synchrons from deck, searching a Stardust Illumination on the summon of Stardust Synchron. Now the endless conga line of draws by summoning Hyper Librarian with a token in Stardust begins, then Crystal Wing with Speeder and Junk Synchron drawing a card in the process, then using Jet and the other token to bring out Celestial Double Star Shaman. This lets me bring back Doppel Warrior again, summoning Caligo Clawcrow from hand before synchroing Celestial and Doppel for Herald of the Arclight, getting 2 more tokens in the process. My board is full though, and I'm out of tuners, so I tribute one of the tokens to summon back Stardust Synchron from the grave, lowering its level by 1 and banishing the previously used Stardust Illumination to sync with the Caligo Claw into the level 5 Excel Synchron, giving me yet another draw. Now normally this deck is able to put up even more negation, for instance using Chaos Ruler and Jet Synchron to make Hot Red Dragon Archfiend Abyss, but thanks to the 2 Impermanents and 2 Veilers I've drawn, I don't really need it, instead just syncing off Excel Synchron with TG Hyper Librarian to end on the Royal Rare Baronne de Fleur, sending 2 Imperms and passing turn. 7 negates. But all I need is one of the Imperms negating their Red Resonator as they resign their fate to death, crashing into Baronne and letting me finish them off next turn. Now, what happens if we can't get Doppel Warrior into the grave to summon back with Junk? Well, here's how in game 4 out of 50. By using Maxi's effect on our own turn, we can get it into the grave, summon it back with Junk Synchron, and because I brought a monster back from the grave, I can special summon Doppel Warrior from hand. Now, I'm not going to have enough field space for the tokens if I sync it off right now, so instead I use the Junk Synchron and Maxi to make Junk Speeder, summoning 3 Synchrons from deck before synchroing the second Junk with Doppel to make Hyper Librarian, giving me 2 zones for the tokens to occupy. Now I can use Stardust Illumination to mill Stardust Trail from deck, then banish it to lower Stardust Synchron's level by 1 to sync that and Speeder for Crystal Wing, giving me yet another main monster zone open to sync off my Jet and a token for Double Star Shaman, bringing back both Doppel Warrior and Maxi to the field while drawing a card. Now, why would I do that? Well, I need another non-tuner, since I'm using Doppel, Shaman, and the last token for Excel Synchron, summoning 2 tokens, then using 1 and Excel to make Stardust Charge, drawing 2 cards with that in Hyper Librarian, and oh would you look at that, it's a Monster Reborn, say hello to Celestial again. So I can summon Chaos Ruler, mill 5 and grab another Effect Veiler, drawing a Caligo Clawcrow, then discarding to summon back Jet and make Hot Red Dragon Archfiend. I can keep going though, by bringing out Junk Synchron with Synchro Overtake, I can use that and Maxi to summon Junk Warrior, giving me another draw, then using the token to tribute for Stardust Synchron's effect, triggering Trail to bring that back as well, then using them to Synchro Summon Omega to banish a card from our opponent's hand. Perfect, I've got a Droplet, 2 Imperms, 2 Veilers, with 2 negates on field, and all I need is a single Veiler on the Raiden for them to pass turn. Raiden? God, I've been watching too many Metal Gear Rising memes. I just go to the battle phase here since I've got lethal on board, but I'm met with a forbidden Droplet. Too bad it's in a column with an impermanence though. He sends everything but Raiden and gets Droplet negated with Imperm, giving me more than enough to win the game. Now that you've seen the ideal turn 1 setup, what happens if this deck goes second? Well, game 38 out of 50 should be able to show how. I don't even have a single hand trap, but that's fine since this person is only on the Rental Fleur deck. They set 2 and pass, so I go ahead and use Synchro Overtake to special summon Junk Synchron from deck, normal summon Doppel Warrior, and make Junk Speeder, summoning 2 tokens and 3 Synchrons, and searching Illumination, sending Stardust Trail before synchroing into Crystal Wing with Junk Synchron and Speeder, then using Stardust and a token to bring out Hyper Librarian, finally using Jet and a token for Double Star Shaman. These are the 3 you're likely wanting to bring out on this combo every single time, but by synchroing off Celestial and Doppel, I can go ahead and give myself added insurance with a negation with Herald of the Arclight, tributing one of the new Doppel tokens for Stardust Synchron from Grave, bringing out Trail, then synchro summoning a token and Stardust for Excel, drawing a card, summoning Caligo Clawcrow from hand, then banishing Illumination to lower Trail's level by 1 to use all 3 of them to make Barone, popping the set monster, negating their set trap card, and giving me 8,400 points of damage for a lethal attack. Of course, this deck could go much farther than this going second with the resources in hand, but I was trying to record these as fast as possible without misplaying, so why overextend? Now that I've shown how the deck works going first and second, let's just go in order of entertaining games I've got marked down. Next up is Game 9, this time using a Skater Dawnwalker to discard Stardust to get bodies on board, then using Tuning to search for Junk Synchron, milling Doppel Warrior. Well, I guess we got what we wanted, didn't we? I didn't necessarily play the best here though, since I should have Synchro Summoned for Omega, banished a card, then did the Doppel Junk Synchron play, but instead I just bring everything out I can, making TG Hyper Librarian with Caligo and Fire Ant, then Chaos Ruler with Junk Synchron and a Skater. Yeah, you can tell this is early on for me with the deck, though I do manage to bring out Junk Speeder by lowering the level of Stardust Synchron by 1, ignoring Doppel Warrior, and just going into Hot Red, Crystal Wing, bringing back Junk Synchron in from Grave to summon a Doppel Warrior from hand, then making Stardust Charge with Hyper Librarian and Jet Synchron to draw again, and giving me the levels necessary for Baronne de Fleur. That's 3 negates on board, but by using Monster Reborn, I can bring back Junk Synchron, sync it, and Doppel for an Excel Synchron, bringing out 2 tokens and sending the last Junk Synchron from deck to grave with Excel Synchron to make it level 8. Now why would I do that and just pass turn? Well, Excel Synchron is similar to Formula Synchron in that we can quick effect Synchro Summon. So by using Maxi and burning through our opponent's Lightning Storm and Junk Converter, leaving them with 2 cards in hand, I can quick Synchro for Virtual World QB Shenshen on the Summon of Unknown Synchron. By doing this, we can essentially force our opponent to banish all cards that go from the field to the grave, so things like their own Doppel Warrior can't trigger because of this, leaving them defenseless. They do go over my remaining token, but that's fine as I can just normal summon Effect Veiler on my turn, sync it and Shenshen for Satellite Warrior, and since I have at least 3 Synchro monsters in my graveyard, I can pop their whole field, gain 3,000 attack, and finish off their life points no problem. Not the most effectively played, but it won in the end, and that's all I can ask for. Game 12 is something I figured I'd show, though I wish I had the actual game footage instead of the replay, as you can see the light on both sides of the field depending on who has priority in game, but not in the replay. The point of this matters here because when my opponent ashed my tuning, the light stayed on longer than it normally would before resolving. So I could tell that they had Max C in hand, so I held the right click to toggle off, hiding the fact that I had the Called by the Grave for their Max C that was still in hand. Using it after discarding Imperm with a Skater to bring out Fire Ant from the deck, Synchro summoning for Chaos Ruler. I wanted to do this because I need to mill out a level 2 here. A Max C, Caligo, Doppel Warrior, even an Effect Veiler would suffice, since at least I could bring that back on Junk Synchron's effect and sync that and Chaos Ruler for Hot Red, but instead I hit 2 Junk Synchrons while having Synchro Overtake in hand. I guess I should have activated it first to shuffle up. Either way, it doesn't matter since my opponent is playing UA and they have Power to Jersey in hand, boosting up their player manager after popping my Chaos Ruler, then doing double damage over Junk Synchron for 34, a second attack for 3000, and the final blow from Libero Spiker for 1800. Well, that was a neat OTK. Things could have gone a lot differently though, depending on those mills from Chaos Ruler. Alright, game 19, and this one's here to show you how much I absolutely fucking hate True Draco and anyone that plays these cards. A. Why is Card of Demise at 3? That is far too powerful. B. Why wasn't the Monarch's Erupt banned for a Synchro event where you're highly encouraged to bring out those from the extra deck? And thirdly, why is Imperial Order still legal in this game? I draw Monster Reborn, which is the most clutch thing I could physically get my hands on in order to give me a few turns to not die, and hopefully find an Imperm to set in the column of Monarch's Erupt, but nope, I'm just dead. Luckily, I didn't cross many players' paths with this deck, but I didn't expect to run into it at all, and my deck building reflected so. Otherwise, I would have had a playset of Twin Twisters and Junk Converter in my main deck over the Escator engine and Forbidden Droplet, but I digress. Let's just hope there weren't too many of these losses for the legitimate ones to put me under the needed 35 wins. Game 24 is a pretty basic game, and I think the only time that I ran into an Emancipator throughout the entirety of the challenge. And while the board spamming is certainly good, they don't have enough tuners for it to matter, as they exclusively end on a Wrap type with no win monsters in grave, and a Baron de Fleur with 4 cards in hand. So I feel rather confident. I top deck Imperm so I can blank the Baron negate, so I go for a Skater afterwards, discarding one of my 2 Stardust Synchrons, but it's ashed so that's fine. I can still use Foolish Burial for a Doppel Warrior, normal summon Stardust, then use Illumination, send Trail, and then use Monster Reborn to bring back Doppel Warrior, banishing Illumination to lower Stardust's level by 3 so that I can make Junk Speeder. Perfect, right? Wrong. Our opponent has Nibiru, which they use on Resolution to get rid of my entire board. However, this doesn't fix their problem, as now I can use Stardust Trail and Synchron with their effects, tributing off the token to bring both back, Synchro for Chaos Ruler, and despite not finding a light or dark monster, I still have a card in hand to send for Jet Synchron, making Hot Red and bringing back Chaos Ruler for damage. After our opponent realizes they won't be able to recover from losing their Baron and 2 hand traps, they concede. Game 28 is just funny. I can't not show this. Our opponent goes first, sets 2 cards, and passes. I draw, they flip up Ojama Trio and Ojama Duo, filling up all 5 spaces with tokens that can't be removed by Tribute Summon, so a Skater does nothing. But it doesn't mean they can't be tributed for a special summon, so by searching Stardust Synchron off of tuning, we can tribute a token, bring it out, then remove 3 of them along with Stardust Synchron to make Baron de Fleur, and once our opponent realizes we outed their gimmicky game plan, they concede. Hopefully switched off that deck once they realized that Synchron was a more popular deck than True Draco. Also, fuck True Draco players. Jumping all the way up to Game 40 is another attempted stun game, this time with Barrier Statue of the Stormwinds, and boy howdy am I a lucky person for drawing an infinite impermanence. However, my opponent flips up Grave of the Super Ancient Organism in response, meaning my level 6 or higher monsters won't be able to activate their effects or attack, so I'll have to rely on some of my lower level monsters like Speeder, Hyper Librarian, Herald, and Junk Warrior to do the job. They attempt to ash my tuning, so I use Called by the Grave to negate it, getting Junk Synchron as they use Max C on the second. They must have had Chain toggled off here, otherwise I would have held the Called by for this. but alas, I can just search and normal summon the Stardust Synchron, beat over the barrier statue, and pass turn. They fade a draw step, which is great, so I can go off here. I milled Jet off of a tuning, so I can discard a Doppel Warrior, bring it out, then summon my second Doppel Warrior from hand, synchroing off my Stardust, whose level is lowered by Illumination, and Doppel for Speeder, bringing out 2 tokens and 2 Synchrons, then making Hyper Librarian. Monster Reborn brings back Doppel Warrior, so I can use the remaining token, the Doppel Warrior, and the Jet Synchron to make Herald of the Arclight, then use the Junk Synchron and the 2 tokens to make Junk Warrior. Looking good so far, and since I haven't normal summoned, I can use Junk Synchron to bring back Doppel Warrior, but I don't have any more level 5 Synchros, so I just use Stardust's effect Engrave, tribute the Doppel Warrior to bring it out in attack position, and I've got plenty enough for lethal damage. Now that Floodgate, it felt fair. I had to think and put in effort to play under it, as opposed to true Draco players with Monarchs Erupt. Fuck all true Draco players. Game 41 is up next, and one is the first of only 2 games during the event that I played against Speedroid. We're going second, and they open Terror Top, always a great start, and they use it to search out Marble Machine, normal summoning, and adding a copy of Takatombour. They special summon it and tribute it for a copy of Red Eye Dice, and make Terror Top a level 2 in order to use both itself and Terror Top for a high-speed Roid Cork Shooter, and since that has the ability to summon back both materials used for the summon, I'm imperming that immediately. They are not getting Terror Top back. This leads to our opponent ending on just Hagoita, so I should be good. They set a card as well and pass turn. I lead off with the normal summon of Junk Synchron, and of course the set card is Duplicate. They bounce my Junk Synchron, cutting off my entire turn, so I set Call by and pass turn. Thankfully I do, as Double Yo-Yo is their normal summon for this turn, and I banish the targeted Terror Top, since there's no way I'm letting them trigger that effect twice. I'm hoping this ends the turn, but I forgot that Duplicate can special summon itself to the field as a level 1 tuner, then lets them go into a copy of High Speed Roy Chambara, going to the battle phase and getting in for 4400, but I still have a Junk Synchron in hand, so I should still be fine. Well, not really. Hagoita can actually tribute itself on my own turn to increase the level of all monsters on the field by 1, meaning I'm unable to go into Speeder, but thanks to the second Caligo Clockrow in hand, I can bring back the one Engrave, special this one from hand, and go into Chaos Ruler. I'm hoping to hit any sort of Synchron for follow-up, and milling Jet at the same time would be a pipe dream. So I imagine that's not going to happen, and yeah, I don't get either of those things, leaving me to go to the battle phase and attack over Chambara, destroying it and dealing 400, but since I'm quite unfamiliar with these cards, our opponent is able to return a banished Speedroid monster to their hand when Chambara is sent to grave, so of course they grab Terror Top. Well, this is frustrating. I was really hoping I'd be able to end the game here, but that's fine. Maxi is in hand, and I imagine they're not going to want to play into it very hard. Either way, I pass, activating it during the draw phase, and they do go for it. Normal summoning Ultra Hound, bringing back Red Eye Dice, and making Hound a level 5 in order to go into Orient Dragon. Thankfully, on that summon I draw Effect Veiler, because Orient Dragon can banish any Synchro monster on the field, negating that and meaning my Chaos Ruler gets to stay around, though I don't have much in terms of follow-up here. I top deck a Doppel Warrior, which does nothing at this point, so I set it and called by after attacking over Orient Dragon with Chaos Ruler, passing and leading into the combo again. Special Terror Top, normal Marble Machine, but instead they search for Card Turbo to bring back Hagoita. Thankfully, the second Called by the Grave banishes Hagoita, but it just doesn't matter. They sink off their entire field for Kite Drake, and then destroy all other cards on the board, using Ultra Hound and Grave to shuffle back Double Yo-Yo, and bringing out a Synchro monster on the same level from the extra deck, which is plenty enough to finish me off from here. Very tight game, don't feel like I misplayed too much, I was just outed by unfamiliarity. Game 43 was one of the only games I ended up having against Virtual World, and I opened Maxi, so this should be pretty quick. Or it would be if it wasn't for Crossout Designator. Good choice with so many hand traps running around, especially when Pot of Desires is the follow-up, banishing 10 to draw 2 before finding Emergency Teleport, summoning Yan Yan. They follow up with GG targeting Yan Yan, sending King Long to the grave and adding Lulu by banishing it, discarding Chuche after going for Lulu. They send Jean Wu and add K-Loon, good choice, but instead of setting up for Chuche, they instead put King Long on the field. Weird, but from here they go for Stardust Charge Warrior, draw a card, and find Lao Lao, summoning it and bringing back Lulu, who in turn causes Nian Nian's effect to trigger to bring it back as a tuner, then syncing off Lao Lao and Gigi for XX Saber Gotems, looping a card out of hand before syncing Stardust Charge and Lulu for Cloud Castle to bring it back. Not sure why they decided for this play at this point though, because they synchro summoned the Gotems and the Nian Nian for Geomath Mech Final Sigma rather than using the Cloud Castle, and then tributing off Gotems to loop another card out of my hand. But hey, I'll take the misplay. Nian Nian shuffles a banished card back before activating Zhang Wu, resurrecting Lulu and bringing Lili out to get another level 6 non-tuner, ending on Shenzhen in defense position. Well, that's not too bad. I've got Monster Reborn and Gotems is 100 attack more than Final Sigma, and is Skaters in hand, so I can discard this useless Called by the Grave since I know all cards in play, making Chaos Ruler and adding Junk Synchron. I don't want to go any farther into my plays before getting rid of Shenzhen, so I go to the battle phase, attack over with Gotems, then go to main phase 2 in order to make Junk Speeder, summoning 3 tuners and making Crystal Wing with Speeder and Junk Synchron, Hot Red with Chaos Ruler and Jet Synchron, and tributing the Stardust Synchron for another one in Grave, bringing out Stardust Trail, and making Omega to banish the known Lulu from hand, added back off of Gigi last turn. Lastly, I can bring back Jet with my last card in hand, sync that off with Gotems to make Barone, activating the effect of Pop Cloud Castle before passing turn, and this should be the end of the game. They try to activate Shenzhen in Grave to bring it back, so I negate with Barone, and they set a monster and pass. Omega returns, I pop King Long, summon back Chaos Ruler, and head to the battle phase, attacking over Final Sigma for 3000 with Crystal Wing's effect, clear out the set Ash Blossom, then attack him with Hot Red and Barone for lethal. Gotems was definitely cool, and I think if they had looped another card out of my hand instead of leaving Cloud Castle there, I probably wouldn't have been able to come back from that. Lastly, game 49 is against True Draco. Yeah, another one of these people, but I saved the best for last, trust me. I start out with a pretty poopy hand going second, and seeing no extra deck always frustrates me here, especially when they're able to go for Card of Demise with no cards in hand, setting 5 and having Ignis Heat and passing turn, and of course, they didn't banish Imperial Order off of the Pot of Desires. Insane. I set the Imperm in that column, setting Tuning as well to just feint any interaction, setting my Fire Ant and passing turn. I'm basically fiending for damage from Imperial Order and hoping to draw a Junk Synchron, since if I can normal summon that and potentially get off to the races, I'm good to go, but that back row is probably not going to allow that. At least I'm getting a consistent number of monsters to set and they're not drawing anything, so Ignis Heat is just sitting here punching defense position monsters while they take 700 every turn from Imperial Order, but here we are, Junk Synchron. I use Imperm targeting the Ignis Heat, which lets him add a card, but now I'm able to activate Tuning, adding Stardust Synchron, normaling Junk to bring back Doppel Warrior, and of course they have Skill Drain too. But you know what that means, right? 8,000 minus 1,000 is 7,000, equally divisible by 700, so Imperial Order can kill them. All I have to do is survive 2 more turns, and thanks to the top deck Stardust Trail, I'm able to protect my life total just enough as a second Ignis Heat is on the board, leaving both in defense position and praying they don't have a way to destroy me. And they don't, as both Ignis Heats attack in, both monsters are banished, but in my standby phase, Imperial Order activates one more time, finishing them for exact lethal. That's right, Floodgate fucker, you deserve that for playing bullshit. I hope Satan has a nice little section for True Draco players in hell, just so that he can give some special attention to people like you. Well, with my hate boner for True Draco out of the way, let's get back to the deck, and it is fantastic. I really enjoy the Synchro game plan, and I can see myself messing with this and playing with it on ladder for next season of my grind to Plat 1. However, what was my record at the end of this? Well, I won the challenge with 41 wins and 9 losses for an 82% win rate. And that's not terrible at all, and I just think all but 2 of those losses were to True Draco, which I'm sure I could have changed some of the build to include back row removal and made this a lot more manageable, though I'm happy enough with the result. If you haven't played the Synchro Festival or want to give the Synchro-centric strategy a shot, grab this deck. It's super fun, and I'd highly recommend it. See you next time. Hey everybody, thanks for watching the video. If you liked it, click on one of these other videos, you'll probably enjoy them too. And if you really enjoyed the video and want to help me produce more content like this, head over to my Patreon page to support me directly. Every little bit helps, and it goes straight back into both of my channels. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you next time.